Hey there, boys and girls. Welcome to another episode of Hollow Weekly. And if you're suffering from the post-Halloween blues, we got you covered. Because apparently there's a lot of content for television horror.
That's right.
And if this is your first episode, I'm Nick Rollins here with
George Healy.
And today we are counting down our top, sounds like a weird number, but 4 episodes of TV horror. And we both have an honorable mention, I believe.
Yes.
If not more than one, because there's...
Right.
Picking out certain episodes of good TV horror is hard.
Totally.
Because, I could just say, like, all of Stranger Things Season 2 is great. All of... most of Twin Peaks
right
was great, but we wanted to get a little bit more specific because
we were gonna do, the reason we're at this weird number is we were gonna do 3 and we couldn't get it down to 3, either of us.
Yeah,
because I would have been like losing a child.
Yeah,
any of the 4 I picked, I couldn't.
We wanted to have enough variety because we feel like if we leave a certain show out, then everyone on that crew hates us. Like, they'll listen to this podcast and be like, you know what? I was going to say they're going to Disney us and block us from...
Oh, no.
But they lifted it, so it's fine.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so we each picked 4 with an honorable mention. There's just a lot of good TV horror.
There's a lot of good TV horror. I mean, obviously, this is what, like, they're calling it peak TV. Just TV in general.
Yeah.
The last few years have just been... TV's where it's at, even more than movies, right?
Kind of started because I think of, like, Breaking Bad and Mad Men. I think AMC probably kicked it all off.
Well, it's funny because I'm older than you. I feel like The Sopranos kicked it all off, but then Sopranos was heavily indebted to the original Twin Peaks. So look how this came full circle.
But then it was Sopranos. Then it was like a writer's strike.
Yeah,
and then reality TV and all that.
Yes,
all that came in, and now we're gracing back into it now with Netflix and Amazon and
totally. And then when you think it makes me sad because of the shows that we can't even cover here because we're doing best horror for 2017 and
we were both heartbroken.
Yeah, when I think back, like Black Mirror wasn't on in
we both like my eyes
we Google straight to right, like when did that air?
We were fighting who can get there,
right?
And it just said 2016. We're like, shit.
No, and then I mean before that, talk about peak like horror TV. You had Hannibal, which was amazing.
And that's 2015.
Penny Dreadful, which was also amazing.
That was the year after.
Yeah. So and Ash vs Evil Dead, was that on this year?
I see. That's the thing is that has the weirdest schedule for me,
right? Because
I can't even remember. And there's shows that like I haven't even seen that people mention all the time, like the Sci-Fi Channel Zero.
Right.
I haven't got to it, and what's weird is I think it's just because it's on Sci-Fi.
Yeah, well, we were talking about how there's another show. What we were saying there's the show that's on like you called it like the Pro Network or whatever. What's that? It was like it's an obscure network. Oh, Mr. Mercedes.
Oh yeah. It's on like
neither have I. No, have seen it because it's on like the Sprint channel.
Yeah, it's on something really weird. Like because I follow Stephen King on Facebook and stuff, and he's like, make sure to watch it on blank. I'm like, what? I'm like, oh, that sucks because I'm never gonna see it.
Right.
I thought it was a Hulu show.
No.
And then it's not. And I'm like, well, who the fuck's going to watch it?
Well, I'm sure it'll go to Amazon eventually, if not already. But that is the reason we haven't seen like some of these things.
I'm waiting. I'm one of those guys, like, I just wait for it all to come out. So, like, Preacher Season 2 is aired, and I fucking love, like, Season 1 Preacher.
Yep.
And I know there's something in that Season 2 that should be on my list.
Sure.
But I just haven't seen it. I haven't seen it yet.
Right. But let's get to what we have seen. So, like, do you want to do honorable mentions first?
Let's do honorable mentions first.
Okay.
If they're honorable, they certainly should be on the
list. I only have one.
Yeah, I only have one too. And so I was trying to actually put this on my list, but I really only like the first episode. So my first honorable mention is Netflix's Castlevania, episode 1, Witch Bottle. And the premise of it is pretty dope. So it starts off in this town, and I tried to get the pronunciation right. Wallachia, kind of reminded me of Waluigi from Nintendo games. In 1455, a young woman named Lisa, who wishes to become a doctor, seeks out Vlad Dracula, a vampire with advanced scientific knowledge. Intrigued by her courage, she goes to Dracula's castle. She knocks on the door, and he's like, instead of fucking with her, they fall in love. And so he offers to teach her all these cool science things, and she offers to sort of teach him how to trust humanity back and forth. So it's like a really cool like kind of love story, and it's like it's one of the rare times when like they try to like put like a human element to Dracula, like actually give him a heart. But then she goes back to a town which is just some crazy European name, and the bishop there discovers all of her scientific equipment and accuses her of witchcraft, and then he burns her at the stake. And then Dracula gets pissed, and he tells everyone, you have 1 year to evacuate the town. When 1 year's up, I'm going to come out and just destroy everything. I'm going to kill everything.
That's courteous.
Yeah, but he gives them a year.
Right, that's good.
He gives them a year. And so he goes back, and he actually has a son.
Makes me wish Dracula was like in charge of North Korea or something.
Yeah, he's like, you have 1 year to get this shit.
I'm going to nuke LA. You have 1 year.
You have 1 year to get this.
Instead of what we're going to get, which is like 8 minutes.
So then his son, Alucard, who's in the video games, which Alucard is just Dracula spelled backwards, tells him to go after the guy responsible. They have a little fight or something like that. And so then...
Not to interrupt, but it's so cool that you could reverse Dracula's name.
Then it works
that doesn't
out.
Work for like Frankenstein.
Yeah, Frankenstein's be like, Nyakin fuck. Nyakin fuck.
That's you sound like the original midget from Twin Peaks. Yeah, I think it only works for him.
So he says, hey, go after the guy. He's like, fuck you, I'm going to kill everyone. Then I think what happens was the year later, the bishop holds a celebration, like, fuck you. And then Dracula's like, well, no, fuck you, I'm Dracula. And then just wipes everything out. And then everyone starts blaming all the noble families, including the Belmonts, who Belmont is one of like the main characters who goes to kill Dracula. So giving Dracula a cool little romance and giving him some cool human elements, I really liked. The fact that they make you sympathize with the villain is always a fucking win-win story. So that's awesome. My honorable mention, Castlevania Episode 1, Witch Boltor.
Nice. My honorable mention is the Season 2 finale of Channel Zero No End House. So
walk me through it. That's the one I haven't seen.
Well, this is so spoilers, obviously, and I'm just gonna tip my hand now. I have another Channel Zero on my list that isn't an honorable mention because it's an amazing show, but I felt like there was. See, it's weird when you say best. Like for some reason, to a horror person, it sort of equates with scariest.
Yeah,
like, I don't know that I think that the first episode was best, which is why it's on my actual list. But it was also the scariest. This and the end episode has a lot of payoffs for the things that happen in the plot, but it's not as scary as the first one was. Still has really scary elements. It's probably equally well done, and it's amazing acting. But that's whatever. But anyway, so I don't want. I'm gonna spoil this for you.
I don't give a shit. Spoilers don't bother me.
You don't care about.
No. I'm completely fine. Like I'll.
Well, actually, it's so complicated that there's no way for really spoil it to you, and there's no reason to walk through the plot anyway because it's so complicated. Like we would be here all night. So forget that. But basically, what's happening is that it's a pop-up haunted house, and it shows up in places, and then the word spreads out, and some people arrive to dare to enter this house, and it turns out the house is basically an evil organism, and what it does is it eats people.
Yeah,
and it more specifically, it eats memories.
Oh.
So it feeds off memories and kind of hollows you out. So there's people in the house who have been there too long, and they're just like shells of people. They have no memories left, like whatever. And
that's funny because that kind of lines up with my number one.
That's
completely fucking different awesome. And a true story.
That's sweet. But what makes this the at least an honorable mention is the acting. The writing and the acting are incredible in the show, but I'll find the guy's name. His name is escaping right now. It's the guy who played the killer in Zodiac, and he was also
Drew Carey's brother.
Invitation, right? And right. And he's an amazing actor, but he plays the doppelganger of a father of the main character, and he's been sort of the big bad the whole show besides the house.
Yeah.
But he ends up realizing that he's basically torturing and tormenting this girl who's his theoretic daughter.
Yeah.
And decides to kind of help her turn the tables on the house, and it's super touching. And then he knows
is it short stories or is it an overall?
It's an arc through the whole
season.
Okay. But it's not anthology. It's every season's themed, sort of like AHS, right?
Gotcha.
But what's amazing is it's terrifying what happens to the girl's friend, which she turns into kind of a badass right at the last minute, which is kind of cool. But the father knows he needs to eat her memories. You can only live off the memories of your family. You can't I can't steal your memories or whatever. So like he knows he's going to end up turning her into a husk, and he doesn't want to do it after all. But he knows that he's going to get so hungry that he won't be able to help himself. He came out of the fucking house into the real world to get her earlier in the season. So he knows that he's not going to be able to stop himself. He knows he's a monster, so he basically kills himself or lets them kill him. And the way he acts it is so fucking heartbreaking. I felt like I was watching an Oscar, like Gandhi or some shit. Like,
because that guy's a good actor.
Oh my god, he just nailed it. It was so good, and it was. I have a feeling this is going to float up somewhere in this episode, but it was acting on par of what the guy did playing Ed Kemper in Mindhunter. Like, it was that level.
Oh shit,
so goddamn good. So I don't want. I mean, we're going to talk about not honorable mentions, so let's get to it. But it was just really good. So that's.
So I need to binge that one.
Yeah.
All right.
It's easy. It's 6 episodes.
Oh, that's super easy.
Yeah.
It's not like
they're not even an hour long.
Oh, then what am I doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? Recording an episode.
All right. What do you got for number 4?
So number 4 is also on your list. We know this as a fact because we knew it was.
Actually, I'm changing it up.
You're changing it up?
I'm changing it up, but you go ahead.
Can I tell them what it was on your list? This is my number 4.
Yeah.
This was a number. Sure. This was number 2 on George's because it is a good episode. He's gonna flip the script last second, so now I have no fucking clue what it's going to be. But number 4 on my list is Twin Peaks Episode 8, Gotta Light, which is probably the most mindfuck episode. And that's coming from a fucking David Lynch. That's coming from Twin Peaks.
Yep.
So this was the most mind-fucked episode.
Yep.
It's the creepiest episode. It's the most like unsettling episode.
Yep.
This was hands down my favorite, and it's just like a.
Well, for people who haven't seen it, right? Like the episode starts conventional for Twin Peaks style. It starts with Mr. C, evil Dale Cooper. And then there is a 10-minute 9 Inch Nails performance like in the beginning there somewhere, but it turns into this acid trip sequence. So picture the famous special effects trippy sequence in 2001, but done as your worst nightmare
and slowed down
and
the last 10 minutes.
And the sound design designed to just fuck with your head. It's terrifying, and that isn't even mentioning the Gotta Light guy.
No. So you've now ventured through an atomic bomb.
yes, you have.
And so what it shows is, and the wiki refers to them as the woodsman.
Mm-hmm.
So it just shows like a gas station type thing,
mm-hmm.
and it's just like a time lapse of these guys who are just very transparent, just walking through in and out real fast, in and out real fast. And you don't know what the fuck these guys are.
Right.
And then it cuts to a couple driving, and they pull up to this guy who's just he looks like I don't know. It's just he's covered in like some sort of grease. Like he looks like a demon almost with a cigarette and like a fucking like winter hat
mm-hmm.
on, and all he keeps saying is "Gotta light."
Well, remember this. So this is a flashback, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Twin Peaks takes place in 2016, I think. The Return, but it flashes back to it time jumps to first when the bomb went off, and then
1950
something, right? 57 or
something like that. Yeah, right. Well, 1950s.
So it's shot in black and white, right? And then it's super retro looking. So in their retro car, and okay, go ahead.
Yeah, super 50s, super doo-woppy.
Yep.
And you just know from the guy's look, he's bad news bears. And so he walks to the couple who like sort of cracks their window, and he asks the guy, like, they freak out, they zoom off, and then you finally see.
Well, wait, before. So remember, there's like that distorted screaming, and everything's in slow motion. So everybody, you thinking the car is about to die or be possessed, but you're suffering through it in slow motion.
It is like.
And then they gun it, and the car goes, and all of a sudden there's one of those fucking woodsmen in the middle of the road, and it's like a visual jump scare.
It is just super unsettling.
Yes.
And then you finally get to see like sort of why you don't want to see this guy
Right.
in person.
Right.
And so then he goes to the KPJK radio station, and he just keeps asking God a light, and he's just fucking slaughtering people. So he kills the receptionist, and then he goes to the disc jockey, and
He kills the receptionist by crushing her head like a grape.
and then he does the same with the disc jockey.
Eventually.
Yeah, he just grabs him. And then I forgot about this part because I knew this was on my list. So I reread the wiki, and I was like, what was it that I really dug about it? And then it was after he just keeps repeating, this is the water and this is the well, drink full and descend. The horse is white of the horse is the white of the eyes and dark within. And he just fucking says it, and it just shows people like listening in at like a diner, and then I think another.
Terrifying. The way he says it is terrifying, and there's these minor variations in his cadence, like where he's punching some words, and the next time he says it, he's punching other words, and it's so aggressive, right? And you can't believe you're hearing it over and over and over again because David Lynch doesn't give.
It feels like for
he has zero fucks to give about
And then everyone passes out, and then a weird bug crawls out of that girl's mouth.
The toad bug.
Yeah, whatever the fuck that was.
God.
Just crawls out of her mouth, and I think like just kind of flies out the window or.
No, it flies in the window and then crawls in her mouth, and that's the end of the episode.
Reverse.
Right.
So it went in her mouth. And then that's fucking it.
Yep.
Bing, bang, boom.
Well, then you see the woodsman leave the radio station after doing my favorite mic drop moment in TV horror, because he literally drops a mic from the radio station after he slaughters a whole bunch of people. It's just like, thunk.
There you go, my work here.
He strolls out, and you hear like a horse in the distance, which I assume is from Rob Zombie's Halloween.
Yep, exactly. Crossover. You never.
No, he stole that from Twin Peaks.
Expect the unexpected from David Lynch.
Right. I gotta watch movie on that one.
So number 4.
So, but also I just got to tell you, like, not only was that a terrifying episode, but what one of the things, because David Lynch is a master. If you want to see like amazing jump scare, like done right, Mulholland Drive is that behind the diner shit. Like, but the God of Light woodsman slaughters the receptionist, but he doesn't kill the DJ outright. He has him pinned like a bug with his hand, and he's basically rooting around like in his brain or something while he's doing this whole speech into the radio. And it terrified me because the guy was just suffering and like paralyzed, but it was so weird how it went down. And then once he broke him like a, I don't even know how to, like a water balloon.
Yeah,
and the sound, I mean, one of the things that puts this on the list
gooey and crunchy.
The sound design is the sound design on The Return was the best of any show I've seen in the last couple of years, for sure.
Yeah.
So good choice.
It was something else. And you can probably watch it standalone. You don't need a whole lot of reference. If you're like, that sounds interesting, just jump right in.
Yeah, totally.
Jump right in, get weird, and back out.
Totally, I totally agree.
All right.
My number 4 of best TV horror of 2017 is the finale of Bates Motel. So, Bates Motel was not really strong on horror elements. Matter of fact, some of the subplots felt almost like Law and Order-ish, or like this weird, I don't know, it had a weird tone to it. Just really remarkable how that was. But Freddie Highmore and Vera, however you say her name, they're just some of the best actors that have ever graced a horror TV show, first of all. And second of all, you get to, first of all, I'm putting them on the list for courage, because they changed the plot of Psycho.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the fact that they even dared to... I just knew that I was going to be watching Norman sit in a sanitarium when Bates Motel ended. Like, I just knew it. And then they killed him. Like, it was crazy that they were, brave enough to do that and literally snuff out. He's not like Jason. You can't like put his head back on and bring back for another season. Like they ended it. It's over, right? So I thought that was really cool that they just took a run at it like that.
And it would have been so boring if it just went right into Hitchcock's Psycho. Because then it's like, okay, we know what's going to happen, blah blah blah. They took the characters and just did their own thing.
Then yeah, for sure. And so it's a beautifully shot show, but it was so sad what was happening to some of the characters, like Sheriff Romero, who basically has a death wish and sort of got what he wanted. He just didn't kill Norman. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the complexities of the show that I like is I'm not sure that he ever really wanted to kill Norman because he was such an authentically good person. He wanted to kill him. I mean, I know he had revenge because Norman killed his mom and he was in love with his mom. So he was clearly not, Norman was not his friend at this point, but he beats the crap out of Norman. And one of the things Freddie Highmore is, one of the crazy things about Norman Bates as a horror icon is that he seems so frail and slender and not formidable. Mm-hmm. But he is formidable in terms of how fucking crazy he is.
Yes.
And how it sort of lends him some kind of physical strength. That happens in the movie series too. In the sequels, you see Anthony Perkins, who was looking pretty frail himself during some of those scenes, and he's in a fight with someone who clearly should be kicking his ass, but he just has this look in his eyes like he's just not going to lose.
Yeah, he's not here to lose.
And that happens in the scene where Norman basically beats the crap out of this trained sheriff. He sneaks up on him from behind and hits him in the head with a rock, and then hits him in the head with a rock a lot more times, and then shoots him a bunch of times.
Jesus.
And just the whole setting was so sad. He was one of the things that I thought was really cool about it was how I like when horror points a finger at you, the audience, without you knowing it, right? So we all get to sit back and laugh at how crazy Norman is. Like, he's a crazy motherfucker. Like, he thinks his mom's still alive. He's got her in the kitchen, like, taxidermy. He's, like, talking to her and, playing music for her and, having conversations, like, whatever. And one of the subtle things that the show did that I thought was really cool was Romero makes Norman take him to where he buried his mom temporarily, and they dig her out of the snow. And as soon as he finds, because that was his true love, as soon as he uncovers her face, he starts talking to her, and it's completely natural. He's like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I should never let this happen to you." He's like, "I love you. I'm so sorry." And while he's talking to her, that's when Norman basically it kills him, right? But the cool thing was, it was only after I watched it that I realized how natural it is for people to talk to dead bodies.
Yikes.
Like, I didn't even think about it until it was over, and I was like, he's doing what Norman does. Mm-hmm. He's not hearing voices back. But like he's halfway down the road of crazy, and I think we all are halfway down the road of crazy when you think about it. If you think about finding someone that you love in a snowdrift, like, looking like whatever, I feel like the vast majority of us would probably say something out loud.
Yeah,
and
it's like a comfort thing.
That means we're sort of implicated in the whole Norman process, which I thought was really... and the show was full of moments like that. There were really cool moments. Like, there's a great moment where Norman he's all beaten up and bloody, and he goes back to the Bates Motel and he just opens it because he's that crazy. So he takes the open sign, he pulls down the police tape, he goes in the office and rings the bell with a smile on his face. He's like, ding, and he's like, we're open. And then this family, this mom and two kids, swing by like a little later, and she's like, are you open? He's like, of course.
Oh my God.
He's like running a hotel. But then his brother comes for the climactic like showdown between the two of them, and when he gets to the hotel, he sees there's a car and a light on, and he goes down, and he knocks on the door, and he's like, "What are you doing here?" And they're like, "We're staying the night. We got checked in by the nice." And he's like, "The kid up there, the really thin one, very polite." She's like, "Yeah." He's like, "You have to leave."
You're not going to believe
this. It was the best moment. You have to go. So it was just really cool how they played with it. And then, there's the amazing moment between the brothers because Norman commits suicide by brother. Mm-hmm. So like you would commit suicide by cop. So the brother says Norman's got the table set. He's got mom there, and he's telling Dylan's like, all I want is for you to be better and you to be happy and you to not be crazy and whatever. And Norman's like, it can be that way. You just got to think hard enough. And his brother's like, no, it can't be that way. He's like, yes, it can. Don't ruin it. And his brother's like, whatever. So Norman realizes that it's all over and his brother's going to take him to the sanitarium and where he's going to spend the rest of his life there because he hasn't seen the movie sequels. So
he has no idea.
He misjudged how that was going to happen because he had a lot of fun going at it if he didn't commit suicide by brother. But so he lunges at his brother, but he purposely misses with his knife and the brother shoots him. And it's just such a great way to end what they built. Phenomenal. So my number 4.
I like that. Mm-hmm. Do something a little different.
Totally.
You don't want to see the same thing over and over again. All right, so this next one is a no-brainer. It's going to be on everyone's list. I don't know which episode everyone won, but Stranger Things season 2. I personally went with, and this is kind of spoilery. If you haven't seen it yet, skip over this part. It's episode 8. So if you're not there yet, just skip around. If you hear names like Will and Hopper, keep skipping until you hear George's voice.
Yes.
But I went with episode 8, the Mind Flayer. And I really I never played D&D, and I was actually talking to a buddy yesterday. Like, we both really want to get a campaign going. Mm-hmm. And then when you watch Stranger Things, it only enforces the idea. Sure. I know some people say, it's not worth it, but whatever. So episode 8, there's a character named Bob, played by Sean. I can't remember his last name. He was Rudy. He was also in the Lord of the Rings. He was the.
We're so bad with names.
I know the name. That's the one that we're not.
They've got Google.
We're not. Who was it? Bill Clinton, who remembered everyone's name.
Napoleon remembered.
Napoleon. Yeah. Anyways, he plays the sweetest character. He ends up becoming Winona Ryder's love interest, mm-hmm. and he's the sweetest, nerdiest guy. He's a manager at Radio Shack, and he loves electronics, and he's trying to get her kid into all these cool little mind games, stuff like that, because that helped him when he was sick, and only he wasn't trying to fight a shadow monster in his head that's mm-hmm. opening up a gate to another dimension to unleash.
That is a big difference.
Yep, big difference. But he still tried, and he's just very, very sweet. And you sort of know, Alex knew from how sweet he was that he wasn't going to live.
Right.
And this is the episode where he dies, and the way he dies. This is the reason why I made the list, because this part was super tense.
He gets electrocuted at Radio Shack.
Yep, that's what happens. He goes to plug in an old 1985 boombox. His finger slips right into the socket. That's the end of Bill.
No, that's what happened to Agent Cooper, actually, in The Return.
You know what? That's
it's like a fork in a damn socket. Okay, go ahead. How does he actually
Very close, because both had Bob.
Yeah, that's right. That's
different Bob.
Different Bob.
Okay, so basically, the Upside Down, which is probably the coolest fucking mm-hmm. place, is unleashing these things. I think they refer to them as demi-dogs or something like that. They had a name for them, mm-hmm. and they're basically the creature from the first one with the big flowery looking face, mm-hmm. but in dog form. Mm-hmm. Almost sort of looks like what they call him, the Licker from the Resident Evil film. Mm-hmm. Imagine that, but with that face.
It's such a great design.
It's super cool. So those are all unleashed in that big building where all the shady shit was going down, mm-hmm. and they have the big the portal to that world, and this is where all the shit's gone to hell. They're spewing out of the Upside Down and into the real world. And Bob, being the genius he is, he's trying to hack the systems to lock these doors and do all this other computer stuff. But he has to go to down into the basement where the computer system is, while avoiding all these. So while Bob's doing all that, Owens, who's one of the doctors who told Will oh, you'll be fine in no time, mm-hmm. he was the dad in Whiplash.
Okay.
He was that guy, and I fucking love that guy. He is watching him through the security cameras with a walkie-talkie, letting him know if the coast is clear. So, and then Hopper gives him a gun mm-hmm. to protect himself from dogs from another dimension.
Yes.
As one does.
Yes.
He goes down, does the little coding stuff, because he's the only one who knows basic code in 1985,
Yes.
which everyone is like, "What the fuck is that?"
Right.
And then it's not until on the way up he's walking down the hall, and then Owens sees one of the dogs, tells him to stop, go into a closet. He goes into the closet, and it's basically like the scene. And the reason I liked it is it reminded me of in Jurassic Park when she's trying to turn the power back on, and they have the walkie-talkie, and they're sort of guiding each other through.
Scene.
Very, very similar to that in terms of tension. Yeah. And so he goes into the closet, and you see like the shadow of the little dog go through, and then as he's leaving in slow motion, you just see a broomstick fall to the ground and go doom. And then the dog turns around, and it's just this big, like it's almost sort of like when he yells like "run" in Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
He fucking Bob takes off, and then it's like, oh, it's so beautiful the way it's shot. He goes through these doors, and then he stops, look at Winona Ryder's character, and it's all in slow motion. And the way he fucking looks at her,
right.
you know, sure as shit, one of them fucking dogs is gonna jump up and start noshing on him.
Sure.
And then that happens, and then Hopper comes in and tries to pop a few in there, but
That's...
goddamn, if that scene. And the reason this made the list is because we binged it. Stranger Things is one of those flagship Netflix shows that, like, when it comes out, you go all the way through it, and you just immediately fall in love with this guy. And even knowing he was going to die, when that moment happened and the broom hit and the dog turned around, Alex and I at the same time both went,
"Oh, it's awesome!"
And like
that's what you want.
That hardly fucking happens. Like, we watch a ton of horror shit,
right. Yep.
And hardly does the tension get built that well.
Yep.
For a character you care that much about. And I mean, you sort of knew Winona Ryder and the Hopper, the main sheriff, had a thing, because they even had like a moment earlier in the season where they talked about how they used to smoke cigarettes in high school or something like that.
Right.
But at the same time, they made his character so fucking sweet that like it just broke your heart.
That's awesome.
When he happened. And it's that episode. Also, I think that was the first episode when 11 meets back up with the gang.
Okay.
And so you've been waiting for that all season.
Sure.
There's only 9 episodes, I think.
you're right.
And they wait until episode 8 to finally reunite
That's crazy.
her with them. So not only do you get a great like scene full of tension and heartbreak, you then get the reunited, the reunion that you've been waiting all season for, going into just a badass finale.
Such a great episode in such a great show.
Yeah, I really like it. Some people were going back and forth about Stranger Things season 2.
Right.
Some people said it wasn't good as the first one. I actually liked it more. They added some more characters into the story who I really enjoyed. There's one episode that's all about 11 and another. Yeah, this is the episode before 8. So spoiler if you haven't seen 7. She meets another person she's 11, and then she meets like the girl who's tattooed is like number 8 or something like that, and she has a superpower where she makes people see things that aren't really happening.
Right.
And some people hated that episode, but it was really fucking good, and it had another great, like the way they build tension in Stranger Things season 2, I think was better. There's better scenes, and that one almost made my list.
I actually like that superpower a lot. What a cool superpower!
Isn't it dope?
Right.
Like at the end,
really cool.
The cops are chasing him and shooting at him, and she makes them think that there's this big metal wall building in front of them.
I'm just trying to imagine how I'd use that power. Like, it just seems like a great way to...
One way she uses it is they go to steal stuff from a gas station. She makes the gas station owner think that the shitter is overflowing. So that's one way they do it. But yeah,
I don't know about that story.
Everything about season 2 is...
I think I would just like air President Hillary Clinton on Fox.
Just to fuck with him.
Super hilarious.
They would blow up. But yeah, so episode 8, the Mind Flayer.
No, that's awesome.
Made it to the list. It had to.
We would have been charged with criminal neglect if Stranger Things wasn't on.
Yeah, that was the.
We're gonna get this charge later because I know our list. But good.
That was the weird thing was, even Alex they were shitting on me before we went in there. They're like, "What's on your list?" I was like, "Blah blah 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 blah," and they're like, "Oh, so obvious." I'm like, "Screw you, Pikachu." Stranger Things is
a gift.
Yeah, it's just a bombshell of a show that just does everything right. So number 3, Stranger Things, episode 8, The Mind Flayer. On to yours.
I'm not going to have much to say about my number 3, and it's because I suspected that if we recorded this episode 3 days from now, this would be replaced by another from the same show. So my number 3 is The Exorcist season 2, and it's the latest episode to air as we're recording this, which is episode 5, called "There But for the Grace of God Go I" or something like that.
Fitting.
Yeah, for sure. This show is really, really goddamn good.
I did not expect it to be good. I haven't caught up with season 2, but season 1 is very eerie.
Yep. It can be authentically scary, but there's a great twist in season 2 that's revealed at the end of episode 4, and then they build on it in this episode that I picked here. And it's one of the creepiest little girls to be in horror since Regan, which is fitting, right?
Yeah.
And they give her a creepy mask hood thing to wear, which is like, I swear to God, if I went home and opened my closet and someone put that goddamn mask in there, I would just pass out. It's fucking terrifying, and it shouldn't be, but it's Annabelle level, like, not level, but I feel like they did a better job designing this than they did Annabelle. Like, it looks ridiculous to me most of the time. Creation was good, but this is just terrifying mask design. And then it really plays on some super dark fears where this guy is running this foster home for these children, and you're really pulling for pretty much all of them.
Yeah.
And they lose one of their people in this episode, which is super heartbreaking. But he's mentally losing it because of this demon child thing, which means she's undermining the glue that kind of holds them all together. Yeah. So they're all in danger. It's threat to everyone, which really upped the stakes for what was happening. But two things here. A really, really, really gross thing. I hate skin shit. And this guy gets like this possessed rash that like flies crawl out of.
Oh no!
Of the holes on his chest.
Oh, that shit!
It is so disgusting.
There's a name for a phobia of like holes in the skin.
Yes,
and I got that. Like you said that, it made my head start itching. Like I fucking hate that.
I know, it's terrible. Oh. So that's, I mean, that right there, that's like really bad. But another thing that's amazing is there's this coordinated scene where the demon girl. One of the priests, Tomas, is in an attic where the demon girl theoretically lives, and he's searching around with a flashlight, and it's just a really creepy room, and it's really creepy how it's shot. But he hears a noise; it's a thud, and the reason he hears a noise is the creepy girl is holding a doll. She's facing the wall, like end of Blair Witch style.
Oh yeah.
And she thuds the head of the doll against the wall. And he turns the flashlight around, but he doesn't see her. Like, we see her, but he doesn't see her. So he's tracking the sound, but he can't see her. And she does it again, and it's a really creepy sound. But then it cuts to the foster kids who are out camping, and one of the foster kids attacks out of nowhere one of the other foster kids by picking her up in this building that they were exploring. Or he was hiding in, I forget how it went. And he picks her up and starts thudding her head against the wall. And it's in time with what the demon kid's doing, like miles away. And every time she does it, he does it. And when you put that together, it was like one of those, oh shit, like moments. It's so cool how they created that. And I just really buy into the characters. The priests are super real. They're taking damage as they go.
Yeah.
There's a subplot with.
Is Gina Davis still in this?
No, not yet. If she's gonna show up, but
didn't she die in the first?
No. She was possessed at the end.
Someone got pushed. Oh, that's right.
She killed her mom, I believe.
That's what it was.
But one of the really cool things is. So the plot, I feel like one of the overarching plots of this season is the demons are starting to work together to target exorcists.
Oh, so that's fucking cool.
Right? So the most famous, most powerful exorcist, they've already taken her down, and she's possessed, and she's integrated. She's got the creepy eye thing going on, and the other exorcists have her chained up in this shithole where they're trying to figure out whether they can save her or not. And the one ruthless exorcist is like, no, she's gone. She's dead. We can't save her. And the other guy thinks about saving her, but that's not a good idea because every time he gets close to her, she kicks his ass. That's not great. But there's this great moment, big spoiler alert, where, she was a really selfless person. She, she was a fucking exorcist and faith person. So she's pleading to them not to leave her there in that dungeon, and the priest turns to her and goes, look, if I don't go with her, if I stay here with you and try to exercise you, like a bunch of people are in danger and they could die, and I'm torn. And she's like, yeah, but stay, you can save me, what about me? And he's like, that's what I thought, you're not in there. Because she never would have said that. She would never would have put someone else ahead and he doses her with holy water and she blows up. It's so great. So it's just knowing
that show, you're right. The next few episodes could just be
well, no, the creator of the show said that the best episode they've done out of any season is the one that's about to air.
Oh shit!
This Friday. So I mean, sometimes creators don't know what, but sometimes they do. So, but I'm just really stoked to see if that lives up to that hype. But I have a feeling where the story's going that it's going to be really good because they've taken it to a really interesting place. And I gotta say that a lot of people are saying that season 2 is better than 1. I don't know that I agree with that yet. I feel like the writing between the two main characters, who are the foster people, is super hokey.
Yeah.
And it's way clunkier than anything I remember from the first season, and it kind of drags it down a little bit. So it's still an excellent show, great scare moments or whatever, but some of the corny ass, I swear to God, they've spent 2 hours of this season giving backstory for these two people. And I'm like, how much more backstory do we need for these two people?
Well, maybe Friday will be the payoff.
I know. So anyway, it's my 3. That's why it's not higher up in the list. Is I just feel like some of the writing is dropping the ball, but overall excellent.
You know what my hope is for this is my segue into my number 2.
Mm-hmm.
My hope for the Exorcist TV series is that they introduce a George C. Scott type character,
right?
Who would play him?
Who would play him?
I've mentioned these before. The guy who plays Bill in my number 2 pick, Mindhunter.
Yes.
Because that dude has the George C. Scott fucking vibe.
Totally does.
Down. I love this thing. So I'm going with Mindhunter.
Yes.
Episode 2.
Yes.
And I know a lot of people sometimes we've basically thrown David Fincher in as a horror guy.
We do what we do.
Yeah.
People
fight us in real life. Who cares?
people disagree with what's horror or not horror or whatever, but
we think that conversation's
I could not only that, but I could care less about the overall label. So the package on the outside of the box doesn't say horror. The label doesn't say horror, right? But when I open the package, inside the package, someone sent me a nice gift and a thing, and then a poisonous snake. That's horrible. So there can be horror elements in the not horror package, right? So
yeah.
I know why you picked this episode.
Yeah.
And the horror elements for what you're about to talk about are so horror.
Or gruesome.
Yes.
And also serial killers is in the horror realm.
Totally. And Silence of the Lambs was inspired by the guy who is the basis of the show, the profiler, John Douglas. So the pedigree is pretty strong. Good.
So I went with episode 2. The first episode basically just sets up the premise that they're going to start profiling serial killers. Mm-hmm. And the first 3 episodes, or the first 2 or 3, and then I think another one is directed by David Fincher himself, who's just a fucking beast. Yep. It's just so good. So episode 1, they set up the idea that they're going to start doing this and interviewing people, and the FBI is all like, I don't know if that's a good idea.
Right.
Which is funny, considering now there's a fascination with serial killers.
Yes.
Because there's a fucking show about it.
Yes.
So episode 2, they jump in it. They jump in it.
Mm-hmm.
And holy shit. So it's about Ed Kemper, known as the co-ed killer.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically, if you don't know anything about Ed Kemper, he is a huge fucking dude. He's 6 foot. He's 6'9".
Yep.
Huge, but very polite.
Yes.
Total sweet. He's just a gentle bear.
Yes.
He killed his grandparents at the age of 15. He then later on went in to kill 6 teenage girls, and that's not all. He went in to have sex with their corpses, including fellatio from a severed head.
Yep.
But he's a gentle giant.
Yeah,
it's the weirdest fucking thing, and this is why he's on my list, or this episode, because they interview this guy who is just this big fucking behemoth, did these absolutely horrific fucking things, but then he just talks like this, and he's very polite, and he's just very matter of fact, and it's the weirdest fucking thing in the world. Like, imagine.
You saw we posted at the Hello Weekly Horror Book Club on Facebook that he read audiobooks.
Yes.
Because his voice is he's very articulate and very, so he actually, they're not available on Audible because he was clued into the fact that a serial killer was reading audiobooks, but they're online somewhere. But it's just creepy that he can do that, right?
And it's just the strangest thing. So when he goes into detail, like, imagine, and this is why I'm tying it into The Exorcist 3, sort of trying to tie it into the Exorcist TV series. Imagine when, like, was it Brad Dourif talking about, or when the demon is talking about the pleasure he took in killing these people.
Yep.
Imagine that, but not like as sadistic, but as like that's just what you did.
Yeah.
Like that kind of tone.
Yep.
And it's just like that. And it's the strangest fucking thing in the world to see.
Well, and they said that he nailed the actual Ed Kemper. Like,
yes, and if you watch, watch a lot of, like, everyone after the show came out, there was thousands of comparisons. Like, here's the actor, here's the real guy talking, and it's just fucking spot on. And just seeing someone who looks like a gentle giant talking about fucking severed heads is the weirdest fucking thing, because you just look at him, and when you listen to these guys talk. Like, the main character, Holden, is just fucking intimidated by this guy because he's a behemoth. This guy's kind of like a, scrawny looking, kind of skinny guy. But they make you sort of like Ed Kemper. And every time, like, I found myself like wanting them to interview him more and more and more as the season went on. I'm like, that's fucking weird. This guy is a monster. And the fascinating part was they asked him, what should we do with people like you? And he's like, people like me. And then they asked him the question, how many of you are out there? And he's like, I'd say a couple hundred.
he volunteered that. He didn't ask him. He said there's more like me out there. He volunteered it first. And it's interesting because you wonder how he's making his estimate of who these people are, or if he's actually been in contact or noticed by killings. Like, a professional can recognize a professional, right?
Yeah.
Like, he saw it on the news. He's like, oh, that's another one of me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's so weird.
And then it was just an alarming number. But the part that was fascinating about their conversation is that Holden learns that butchering people is hard work. He said it's like a vacation. He said, and then he asked him, like, what should we do with people like you? And this is sort of like the heartbreaking part is he's like, lobotomy or death by torture. Either or, like, just fucking, there's no curing or anything like that, and that's coming from the mouth of the guy, and you're like, fuck. And then with the thing you find out with, like, most of these killers, they usually have some kind of fucked up, like, home life or something like that.
Well,
growing up. But Ed Kemper's performance is creepy in the fact.
I love that you're saying Ed Kemper's performance.
That's funny because the guy nailed it. He was so good.
I know, it's hilarious.
He was so good. Again, we're bad with names. I couldn't tell you the actor's name, but he is now Ed Kemper, whether he likes it or not.
The next time you see him, it'll be like in a family, like a Disney movie. You'll be like, "Hey, there's Ed Kemper."
That's Ed Kemper. Hey, he's in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. How cool is that? But also, there was the line here, and so another reviewer mentioned this. One of the funniest lines from that episode is. Bill and Holden are talking, and Bill's advising Holden not to go in there with a revolver to meet with Kemper. And his line is, he says, like, why not? He goes, he's going to take that fucking thing away from you. He's going to kill you with it, and then he's going to have sex with your face. I fucking love Bill.
Yeah, he's pretty straightforward.
He's so good.
Yeah, he's really good.
He has that fucking George C. Scott.
It's so well cast. Even the guy who plays Richard Speck later in the season, although he's not as impressive.
He was the one that had Born to Raise Hell.
He was the one who threw the bird in the fan,
yeah.
which was a great
dude. His performance.
I know.
He was just like, hell yeah, fucking kill him. Like, Jesus Christ.
He was, and the difference between Like that's the thing. One of the cool things about it is they're figuring out how to categorize killers, and they're introducing you to different kinds. They're not all super villain smart like Ed Kemper is. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
Richard Speck is obviously not.
He's just born
kind
as
of
hell.
an accidental killer or whatever. But one of the things that I found incredibly chilling about the Ed Kemper moments in the show was the fact that he, you know, you mentioned the vocation thing, but he had a very challenging way of digging and interacting with people that's different than the way like a Hannibal Lecter would do it. It was more realistic,
and
which made it more creepy. But when one of the best moments in that little first introduction between Holden and him is when he goes, I don't think people know how hard killing people is. Like people who do this as a vocation, they know that it takes a toll. It's hard. And Holden's writing the word vocation. And he goes, Ed Kemper's like, what are you writing there? He goes, I just think it's an interesting choice of word, vocation. He goes, well, what would you call it? It's not a hobby. And it's the fact that he's like got that thought through, and how amazing is it that, you know, for centuries of human crime, you had people who, it's rare, but you had people who were smart enough to sort of have figured out what was wrong with them, or some of what was wrong with them, and could have articulated. They were just sitting there like little treasure troves where you could figure out what's wrong and then use that to stop other people. And no one ever interviewed them, ever, for centuries. Matter of fact, most of the time they were running countries. Right? So, like, I mean, it's crazy that this is such a recent development to tap. But I knew that moment, I was like, my mouth dropped a little when I was watching it, because I was like, that was the moment when he said that, and I was like, holy shit, the FBI is right. These people are just sitting here with all this self-information that they can't reveal unless you dig for it, right? And that's what they're doing, which is cool.
I just realized 1, 2, 3 of my picks are Netflix, and then my number one, I don't want to spoil it, but it's not I only have one cable show.
Interesting.
That's fucking dope.
That is dope.
Like that. Okay, so Mindhunter is my number
very cool.
2.
And we'd be remiss, big spoiler again, to say that the last 10 minutes of Mindhunter are some of the most terrifying. Right?
I completely forget what happens in the last 10 minutes.
That's when he meets Ed Kemper in the hospital.
After he tried
to kill himself, which was a plan, it turns out, to manipulate him to come, which he admits when Holden gets in the room. He goes, I didn't really think you would come even for this, and he holds up like his slit wrist, but he's pleased that he did. And the funny thing is, this is a show about serial killers, and they made Ed Kemper feel dangerous for exactly 2 times. He was dangerous. I mean, there was the first tension, but he was dangerous when they first met, and then they were like buddies. And then he wasn't dangerous anymore, which is why like everyone was so surprised when he got dangerous again. But he struck like a cobra, dude, and it was terrifying.
And he's like, "It's weird they have no security in this
considering the kind of people who come through here."
Oh my god, dude, his voice, like that's why it's number 2 on the list. It's so fucking crazy.
And the way he's explaining it to him, he's like, "I had to kill those women because when I killed them, they became my spirit wives, and now they're still with me. You and I are friends. I could kill you, and then you would be with me." And he's just explaining it, right? Like, terrifying.
It was good. All right, so your number 2 is an audible. I don't know what the fuck.
My number 2 is the season finale of Twin Peaks: The Return.
Oh, I knew that was your audible. I knew you were going to call it audible, and then I knew that might have been your audible, but then I forgot it was your audible, and then it ended up being your audible.
I didn't want to do the same episode as you, but it's well, there's 2 main reasons why this is on there. I grant that episode 8, the God of Light episode, is the most terrifying.
And before we go into it, if you want a really good in depth, we have the episode.
I don't want to talk about all that because we already have covered a lot of Twin Peaks in previous episodes, but I'll give the reasons why it's on here as the best horror, scariest, some of the scariest moments. First of all, the way it ends is more terrifying than anything that happens in God of Light. Just in that moment. Yeah, the way it ends.
I got chills.
The God of Light has far scarier moments, and they're more sustained, right? Because there's not a lot of scary moments in the season finale. But the way it ends is the most terrifying way any TV show has ever ended that I can remember. It's more terrifying than the way the original Twin Peaks ended, which was terrifying back then. And I know this is going to sound weird, right? But I mean, obviously there's shows called Scream Queens or whatever, so it's not like I'm alone in this, whatever. But ever since like Fay Wray with King Kong, like whatever, there are just some people who are gifted with the ability to scream in a way that makes your skin crawl. And Cheryl Lee, who played Laura Palmer and whatever she ends up as, has that gift. That scream is holy shit.
Blood curdling.
Right, exactly. So that's part of it. But the other part of it is that to me, watching Mr. C Evil Cooper was a really compelling villain. One of the most compelling villains in a show with horror elements that we've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
Obviously, Twin Peaks isn't full on horror, but they kind of just snuffed him out. And that means that the greater evil is so powerful that he's like basically a toy compared to what it is. And that notion is terrifying because he was pretty intimidatingly evil through the whole, but then they just kind of like erased him, which was crazy. But the main other thing that I thought was terrifying and great in terms of what horror can kind of do is, they broke down good Cooper. So literally Agent Dale Cooper, if you did a list of like the 20 greatest TV characters in any genre, like whatever, where you'd have like Tony Soprano and like Archie Bunker and all that shit. I don't know why those two popped into my head.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Who cares?
But I find it impossible at this point that you wouldn't have the Cooper Otter. He's an iconic character, one of the top. And they took an iconic character and they broke him down some, and he turned sort of bad. And it's terrifying to watch something that you've followed for 25 years and loved kind of like disintegrate a little bit.
Yeah.
It was really unsettling, right? And it was really brave to do because you think about, Ash Williams is just going to be Ash Williams. Like, they're never going to change. Like,
he changed a few. Well, he didn't really change. He grew.
Right. But he's got his character traits, his personality traits.
Yeah.
Circumstances are not going to change him. Right. He's gonna have the same sense of humor, the same quick mind, the same whatever. He's gonna do the same fuck up things all the time. Right. But Cooper changed. So one of the things about Cooper is that he always cares about the bystanders. One of his greatest moments is in The Return, is when he saves Naomi Watts and takes on like the killer midget, like Spike, and rips the gun out of his hands, whatever. But his first move isn't to save himself; it's to push her out of the way.
Yeah,
because that's what Cooper's all about. But in the final episode of The Return, there's a scene in the restaurant towards the end of the episode where he's pretty ruthless, and he disarms a bunch of fucking hillbillies or whatever, and he takes their guns and throws them in the restaurant fryer, and then he tells everyone they might go off, and just that casual they might go off. I don't know. They could have gone off when I put them in there. Like you could have gotten shot. Like the fact that he doesn't have that regard for the safety of the public anymore is really unsettling, and really got to me. So it was not as scary as episode 8, but I thought it equally unsettling.
Yeah,
and worth being on the list because it just the most terrifying ending. Like I can imagine, right? How if you were trying to scare the shit out of the American public who invested and got into watching a show. I can't think of a way to end it that would be more frightening than what that show.
Just ending on a blood.
So,
that scream. That's still. I remember that scream happened, and like then it just kind of cuts to black, and then the David Lynch the credits. I just remember I remember thinking like, this is not scary, but then my body being like, I told myself it's not scary, but my body had like goosebumps and shit.
Right.
So it was like really conflicting. Like, it terrified me.
Well, and you know, it's a master class in how and really, I mean, Hitchcock could do this, but only Lynch is really doing this now in the way that at this level is it's what came before that makes it. It's not just the scream. Anyone could just scream at an audience, right? Mm-hmm. But it was that super flat conversation they had with the owner of the Laura Palmer house that lulls you, and you're confused with the characters, right? And then they just walk down those steps, and they're in that darkness, and you just feel like everything's getting enveloped, like it's too big. The darkness is too big, and they're too small, and something's wrong, and you know something's wrong. And while your brain is trying to figure out what's wrong. And also, if you're me calculating, like, oh my God, there's almost no time left in this show, right? And how is it going to end? And you're trying to figure out all these things. Your brain is going like a million different directions. And then Lynch focuses you with Cooper turning around going, what year is this? And you're like, what? And then all those directions your brain was going stops. And you're like, what? And you can't think of what is next. And while that gap of time, like literally, I was watching the show and I was like, wait, what about this? What about this? And he goes, what year is this? I go, what? And then my brain was quiet. And while my brain was quiet, he screamed at me. It's like, it's constructed like a Swiss watch. It's unbelievable.
It was good.
Yeah.
It was good. Good change up. I like that. Mm-hmm. Figures Twin Peaks would be 2 on there.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I mean, it's for this year, it was the most unique TV event, not just horror, but just like TV
in general.
Right?
Yeah, I agree. All right, so number 1 for me. Mm-hmm. And what was I referencing? This you mentioned someone's brains being scattered, memories being lost in Channel Zero. Mm-hmm. This guy made it possible. So I went with Amazon's Lore episode 2 Echoes.
Oh, I forgot you were going to do this. That's right.
This episode fucked me up. I was really I really like the series Lore.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I like the show too. In small chunks.
Yes.
The TV show was great. The reenactments were spot on. It wasn't like it wasn't like cheap History Channel reenactments. Like right. They actually had like this episode I think was the best directed. Mm-hmm. Like it felt like a Twilight Zone episode.
Right.
Like a historical Twilight Zone episode is how I would sell that. So what the episode is about is Dr. Walter Freeman is the father of the ice pick lobotomy. So they see some guys in Europe doing it. They figure, how can we speed it up? So they do the ice pick lobotomy. He believes a 10-minute procedure will end the need for the mental hospital. And this is what makes it hard: is he has the best of intentions, but winds up creating a new kind of horror story. And the acting in it, I wanted to make sure I gave a shout out to Colm Feore, who plays.
This is the one name in this episode. The one name you're right is that.
That's the one name.
Hilarious.
That's the one name. That's my note. My notes for Echo.
We've been talking about famous actors the whole episode that we don't know their names.
What's funny is, for every episode, I put the synopsis just so like I could have a quick refresher what I'm talking about. So my number 1, like my honorable mention had like a paragraph, and then my number 1 pick is just like a 3-sentence synopsis, and then shout out to actor Colm Feore.
Awesome.
Because they made him. What's funny is I looked him up, and the show made him look like way older, and it's one of those things like where they make you feel for Ed Kemper, and like with Dracula, like giving them backstory. Like this guy legitimately thought what he was doing was the fix, and so that's what makes it more heartbreaking is that it was completely fucking ass backwards. Like he was just fucking people's lives up left and right and had no idea, and that's what makes it kind of fucked up. But then it sort of does this Mad Doctor thing where they are like, hey, new research has come out, your shit ain't working. And then he pulls out, he goes, no, I get Christmas cards from all my patients. And then he like dumps it out, and the guy opens it up, and it's just like scribbles on a piece of paper.
Terrifying.
And you're like, fuck.
That's the all work and no play, make Jack and Dull Boy move.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
That's it. And you're like, holy fuck, this guy's like a psycho. But the hardest part is that they show the procedure quite a few times in that episode, and it starts with them putting in a mouth guard, shocking them to knock them out, and then I can't stand when things go through the eye. So like when we did, because we reviewed Zombie 2 for How Low Can We Go, that part got to me. Anything that goes through the eye always fucks me up, and that's all this procedure was we're just gonna stick a pick through the eye, fuck up, you wake up not knowing who things are, and. The scary thing is that, you know, sort of like with Mindhunters, it's based off like real killers and all that stuff. Like this is real fucking shit. Like, and that's the part that made this is the only episode, maybe the first one did that. Oh, the doll one was scary, but this one like made my stomach queasy.
Sure,
because anything that's like medical procedure that's that fucked up, always like there's just it's just so fucking macabre. Like I can't stand it. And the fact that this guy was doing it like in his office. So you're just like, if you like us sitting here and then a fucking table over there, and the first family comes in and the wife, I guess, is like suicidal or has some kind of issues. And the guy just goes, there's a coffee shop down the road. There'll be about 45 minutes to an hour. And then he goes, okay, lady, just have a seat here. And then he just fucking scrambles her brains. That's it. Good night, Irene.
Crazy.
And that whole episode... It's just it's just good storytelling. Like the fact that you had this guy who's fucking people up genuinely at that moment felt like he was doing the right thing. And because he wanted to get rid of he wanted to stop the mental hospitals. They couldn't, or not stop them, but they were overflowing with patients. And the way they were treating patients was fucked up.
Yes.
So you see where he's coming at.
Yeah, he was trying to get people out of One Flew Over a Cuckoo's Nest, but the wrong way.
Yeah, he's just putting more into the cuckoo's nest. But that episode, just seeing like a lobotomy, I think there was even like a Ramones song, or there was some kind of punk song about lobotomizing, and I
don't know. That concept is so and I really like the art and the design of that whole production, the show and the podcast.
Yeah, the acting in it was just really good. I remember I should have wrote down the guy who directed the episode, because
we're just saying Colm Fior again.
Colm Fior. He did everything. He was art. He did art for the show, set deck. He did everything. He was the caterer.
He's the guy who played in Channel Zero.
He was Drew Carey's brother.
He did all.
That was him. So yeah, I went with Lore.
Good choice.
Just it got too real for me.
I'm glad you said about the History Channel thing, because I did catch one episode of Lore that was about some kind of witchcraft, and Jenny really liked it. I liked it too.
Was it the first episode that influenced Bram Stoker for Dracula? They were getting fuck, what's it called? Not consumption.
Yeah, but they were prematurely buried and all that crap. And, then he had to go dig up his wife and whatever. But I felt like those were some History Channel moments in there. Like the acting was, like the reenactment was, I was kind of groaning at. So, but I mean, it was a great story, and it was better than just those few moments. But I'm glad I haven't seen the episode you're talking about.
This one is good.
I can't wait to see.
This one's good. The doll one is fucking fantastic. And then the one I was most excited for was the werewolf one. That was probably the worst one. Because it turns out werewolves are just serial killers that dumb town folk think are wolves. So the whole lycanthropy, whatever you say, thing is just thrown out the window.
That's awesome.
It's just people like you and me. It's just Ed Kemper. The actor and the real man.
All right, well, good choice. Now, my number one...
Does it involve Colm Fior?
It does. I mean, how could it not? He's in them all. Episode 1 of season 2 of Channel Zero, No End House.
See, the fact that this is your number one and I haven't seen it
ahead of Twin Peaks. Imagine, and it's now Twin Peaks is a better show, but this is more horror.
Okay,
right? So that's just the start. First of all, it's the scariest thing I've seen on TV all year. This episode, So it's
we briefly mentioned it. Is this the one that you said sounded like Reign of Terror?
This is yes. Well, I mean the whole season does.
The section of Reign of Terror.
So this is where you get introduced to the No End House and the characters that are going to go inside. But what makes this truly special, like absolutely like horror classic level, in my opinion, is they don't overplay it. It's so hard to write for teenagers in early 20s and make it sound right, and they're totally right. Like it's
That was my problem with Scream.
No false note, right? Exactly. So no false notes. They get it right. They're really well cast. But the way the episode starts is actually sort of a semi-tiny ripoff from It Follows. The way It Follows starts, with someone getting pursued down a street and the same kind of like long shot with the trees and all that stuff.
That part I actually really liked about It Follows.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Totally, but there's a figure chasing this girl from behind, and he's blurry at first, and then gets really clear as he gets closer. And you calculate within seconds that she has no chance to outrun this guy. But he's so far behind her that it takes time for you got to live through this where he's going to catch her, and she's terrified. And he catches her and throws her to the ground and bashes her head, and you see that he's got this is not real scarred on his arm, and you're like, what the fuck is happening? And then she wakes up because it's a nightmare. It's just a incredible start to the show, but then you get to introduce to the characters and whatnot, and then they find out about the No End House being in their city, so they go to the No End House, and this is where greatness happens, because what's really, really cool about this is they are thinking that they're walking into a typical haunted house, something like Universal Studios would do.
Yeah.
Except for smaller.
Or like the It experience.
Right, yes. Yeah. You're right. So when they get to the house, the house design is fucking perfect. It's perfect. It's Amityville iconic level. Like, just the way it looks is amazing. It's so well designed. But when they go in, you can tell that they're like super unimpressed the way that generation would be with like whatever, right? So the first room they get in, there's literally just plaster heads on tables in a room. And they're like giggling and sort of nervous and like whatever, but then they kind of turn to each other like, this isn't really scary. And it's that moment when you realize that they are in so much deeper than they know. They're so,
you know it, but they don't.
You know it, and they don't know it, and you know that they're going to make it through chunks of this house, being like, "Yeah, that's just actors." No, that's not. They're trying to do what you would do at that age. Like, that doesn't scare me. I'm not impressed. Whatever. And it's only when they're in that room for a minute, right before they're going to leave, that they realize that the plaster heads are them. So every character in the room has their own head.
Oh, shit.
And they're trying to figure out how it happened. They're like, well, they watched us when we're waiting in line, and then they 3D printed it or something. Like, it's cool. Like, they're like, good job. Like, A+. Like, whatever. But still not that scary, right? And the lights go off. And then when the lights come back on, the heads have changed. They've been pulled in half with shit coming out of them, and there's hands, like, holding them in half, and they look like they've been blood in the like whatever, and they can't figure out how the heads changed in the second that the lights were out, and one of the heads is fine. It's only the other 5 that aren't.
Oh shit.
And you're automatically like in this position of, oh my god, there's so much to figure out here. It's only a first room because there's 6 rooms in the house.
Yeah.
And it's the first room, and like they're so scared. So they're not scared yet, but you're scared because you're like, they have no idea. This is some deep philosophical shit that's about to go down here. So they make it to, I'm not going to walk through the whole episode, but they make it to the second room. And in the second room, they get confronted with a guy who's got like a super weirdo mask. And this one guy, he's getting right up in their face, invading personal space and staring at them. And they're like, he's an actor, like whatever. And the one guy goes, because, I forgot to mention, the door on the way in said, "Beware of the cannibals." So one of the teenagers is looking at the guy with the mask, and he goes, "Are you a cannibal?" And the guy just shoves him so hard. And immediately, as the viewer, like, you're not allowed to do that in haunted houses, right? And they are sort of stunned, but they're sort of like, maybe this is one of those immersive experiences. And you're watching them try to keep things like, this is just a act, it's just a thing, and it's gonna get progressively worse and worse and scarier, and they just don't know.
Yeah.
So the design of the house, all the way up to the 6th room, is. But Nick, I'm telling you, so the main character, her dad, killed himself by taking pills. He had an allergic reaction, so he took way too many, and his face blew up. His face basically suffocated him. Like his eyes closed, his nose turned 3 times the size. Like,
Yikes!
they walk into the I forget. I think it's room 5. It's either 4 or 5, and she sees a guy who's got a huge plaster head on, with like puffed out lips and closed eyes or whatever, and he's sitting on a couch, and he's got a remote in his hand and he's not moving, and the TV is showing scenes of her family movies, of her and her dad, and the sound design goes. He's saying like, what, nice to see you, pumpkin, and welcome home from school, and like. But then it starts speeding up and looping, and then you can tell, like, he's like, I love you, Martian. I love you. His nickname for his Martian. I love you, Martian. I love you, Martian. And she can't take it anymore. She needs to turn it off. But to turn it off, she's got to get the remote. So the moment when she's walking slowly towards this guy with this big plaster fucking suicide head to get the remote out of his hand, I was like, it was one of those moments where I can't watch this, right? It's just amazing and super original and really, really well done, and a credit to like the horror genre, because it's stylish, it's really well crafted, and goddamn scary. So my number one, just for the scare factor alone for it, is
Jeez, and that's Sci-Fi Channel.
That's Sci-Fi Channel.
That's fucking cool.
Yes.
I'm glad to see they got some cool fucking programming.
And I would have honestly had the first season of Channel Zero on this list is if it had aired in 2017, because it's also amazing. So I mean, it's just an amazing show. It's really, really good.
Jesus,
I think they've announced 2 further seasons too. So I think people
Good.
are starting to get that it's it's
catching on. Well, yeah, because this is the first time. Like, I've been wanting. Like, now I need to go check it out, and I'm fucking stoked now.
It's so good.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Is there any shows? Okay, so that's our list.
That's our list.
That's our list. Is there any shows that didn't make the list and you hope tilt back over into the fucking awesome? I'm glad to have you back.
Well, we can deal with the elephant in the room. We just did best TV horror, and The Walking Dead's not on it.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Let's
American
just say
Horror Story's not
on it.
Right. So, yeah, I don't. It's a thing. I don't. I mean, I feel like it would be. I feel like I'm like in a divorce court where they're making me choose my parents, and it would betray like whatever. Because to say anything that The Walking Dead did was as good as season 1 feels wrong to me.
Yeah.
Like season 1 was amazing.
Yeah, the Frank
and
Darabont.
then whatever. So like there's good moments, there's good subplots, there's some good acting, there's good like whatever, but it's not the same show.
And I think the guy at AMC,
to me,
one of the higher ups, was like, Walking Dead can go on for forever. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, fucking no. Like, fucking wrap it up. Like, end it. Breaking Bad that shit.
Right, yeah.
Say, listen, I mean, well, it's too late because we're already past Breaking Bad, but,
right.
He fucking, Vince Gilligan was like, fucking, like 5 or 6 seasons, and we're it. And it's one of the greatest
shows.
I
personally can't stand Negan, so I don't, it's not, his dialogue makes me want to leave the room. Just every time he says something, it makes me want to leave the room. I feel like why would you take a show with that large an audience and that much reach when you can have, there's so much that you could do in interesting ways in horror and basically make a playground bully the central villain. Mm-hmm. Like, we all know playground bully. Like, that's not interesting. Right? Yeah. It's Ed Kemper is unique. Mm-hmm. Like, playground bully Negan is not unique. He's just like, I'm gonna fuck you up. You're gonna shit your pants. I'm gonna, like, it's just, I don't know. I can't with it, just because I had so much regard for the first season. So
yeah, and I can't take any more of like. It's almost getting known to like the cliffhangers that are coming up are going to suck. I hope I see on the Facebook feed, oh my god, Walking Dead finale, fucking it's back. I fucking hope I see that.
Yeah.
But the past few like finales or even half season finales, because they started doing that shit, have just been fucking buzzkills.
Yeah.
I can't.
I'm really excited for Black Mirror to come back.
I want. Oh my god,
we already
we wanted that to be on our list, but that was 2016.
Exactly. Yep. And there's some other good horror that I haven't seen that I want to check out. That I've heard rumors that are good and whatnot. I just I don't feel like.
And there's been the guy from Brian Fuller has been walking around just being like, I would love for Hannibal to come back.
Yep.
So I would love to see Hannibal come back and wrap it up. They wanted to do the whole Red Dragon thing and then end it. I would love for them to come back and just wrap that show up.
Yeah.
And just fucking knock it out of the park.
Yeah, for sure. That would be awesome. And I never got into Supernatural, so
yeah,
it's hard to jump in on season 12 or what
yeah.
If
we have any fans listening, if you could give us like a top 5 episodes, I could do that.
Yeah, I could do that. And I do want to see Z Nation. I haven't seen that, and I am excited for more Preacher when that develops.
Preacher, I haven't.
And Ash got postponed ridiculously. So.
That sucked.
Right.
Yeah, Preacher season 1. If we were doing 2016, I think I've mentioned it before. Mm-hmm. I fucking love Preacher. I need to watch the rest of season 2 or even start it. Mm-hmm. And I've heard a lot of great things about Z Nation, which is why when you had Channel Zero, I was like, oh my god, you have a sci-fi show in there because their programming fucking for me tanked. Right. I haven't tuned into sci-fi in a long time.
Yeah, me
but
either.
now my ears are like, what's going on over at sci-fi? Like, are they? And so when people say Z Nation, it's a zombie show, Hobbs, and I don't want my heart to be broken like it was for Walking Dead. Right. But if it is like the thing that the zombie show that will actually deliver, then I'm gonna have to fucking check it out.
Definitely.
So there we go. There we have it. Our top TV horror, which might change by as soon as Friday.
Exactly.
But that's what it is for now, and there's a lot more on there.
Well, there's more of the year left, so
there's more of the year left. So, there's time.
Yeah, but you had mentioned a great thing where we've got some. It's around the era for countdown, so we've got some cool stuff coming up on future episodes. We're definitely going to be doing a Christmas horror countdown.
We have a fun Thanksgiving one that I want to do.
Which is your Thanksgiving idea is great. Don't give it away yet. And we got some really cool stuff. So I'm excited.
I'm excited for that. Let us know what your top TV horror of the year is. And until next time, stay scary and watch a bunch of horror movies or TV shows. Yeah. Anything. We'll throw books in there. Bye.